Thank you for tuning. Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. We have a great show for you today. We will be covering Ten Hag and Manchester United's win over Newcastle and whether or not that was enough to keep his job. We talk about the potential going around about the VAR being scrapped, Wolves coming out, making a statement. We'll discuss that. We look at Chelsea and how they defeated Brighton and now they're on a good run of form, and how does this look for the future if they're on the verge of building something special. We talk about the biggest storylines at this summer Copa America, and make sure you stick around for the end of the show where I'll be giving you my thoughts on some of the top transfer rumors going around in the world of football today. Also, we get a number of questions from viewers that come in during the show. So to ensure that your questions get read on air, I ask that you use the tips and donations link at gsmcpodcast.net with your questions. This puts your questions at the top of the list so that I can see it. And it also really helps grow the show. So again, the link is gsmcpodcast.net. Manchester United, they defeated Newcastle 2-1. They're on the verge of going after European football. They have dropped a few places in the last few weeks. They've dropped down to 8th place with 17 wins and 14 losses with a -3 goal differential with 57 points. They have been dropping a few games. They've had a bad season. They lost last week's game to Arsenal. They lost to Crystal Palace. They dropped points to Burnley. But today they were able to get a good result. They defeated Newcastle in a nervyish kind of game. They were deserved winners at the end, but the Newcastle did have opportunities. There was a potential a penalty from Amrabat, which I believe was a penalty. I thought he got him on his ankle. VAR doesn't correct it, which we will discuss later about VAR as a whole. But overall today with the Manchester United Newcastle game, they had 17 shots to Newcastle's 21, but the shots on target was 8-8. Newcastle did have more possession than them, 56% possession to 44%. And when you're looking at it, these kind of games at the end of the season, yes, these are teams that are battling for your position, but any game, all these games, especially with a team of the caliber of United or the expectations of Newcastle after reaching the Champions League last year, games are like this is kind of just a way to build for the future. And sometimes a way to decide the futures of certain people, of certain managers that might be in trouble, or certain players that might be on the brink of being let go by their clubs. It's an opportunity for some people to save their jobs. And in this situation, the main guy we have to talk about is Erik Ten Hag, who has this most important game of their season, essentially, or their entire season, to be honest, coming up whenever they do take on Newcastle United, a Newcastle team. Not Newcastle, Manchester City in the FA Cup final. A Manchester City team that's probably has won the Premier League, depending on how this last match day goes. They've already won. It's a team that's just better than them. They beat them last year at the FA Cup final. They're a more talented team, but it is their managerial rivals. So Ten Hag and United are up against it. But even if they were, is that enough to keep his job? Look, I think they win the FA Cup final. And not just the fact that they win the FA Cup final, but the fact that they were able to do it against a Manchester City, I think that just might be enough, just based on the sheer injuries that he's had to overcome this season, which he hasn't overcame, let's be honest, because they are 8th place. But just of the sheer amount of injury, defensively, the injuries that United have suffered could only be described as devastating. I mean, game in, game out, center backs going out, fullbacks going out, not having a consistent center back partnership, having a Harry Maguire that United essentially wanted to give away, but he decided to stay. I mean, Harry Maguire that was on the outs has to come in and be one of the most important, probably the most important guy in that United back line when you talk about the duration of this season. So it's very frustrating, the sort of injuries that they have to deal with game in, game out, and that is something that Ten Hag, he's not gonna go out and plead for his job, but something that's really on his side, that with the combination of the excitement of winning the FA Cup final, I think that would just be enough. But when you look at this season, the performances, it just has not been good enough. The results have not been good enough. When you look at the Champions League, not getting out of a group with Copenhagen and Galatasaray, that's just not good enough at all. Not getting out of that group is unacceptable. Finishing 8th, and this is a team that's regressed from 3rd place to 8th place. And it's always seemed like since Sir Alex Ferguson left, this Manchester United team is in a transitional period. And the weird part about this transitional period that United have been since Sir Alex Ferguson came in, it's always been goes up, then goes down. Goes up, then just goes down, falls right back down. Goes up, then falls straight back down. I mean, it's year in, year out, with Jose Mourinho. Let's not even go back to Louis van Gaal and David Moyes, all that. Jose Mourinho, they came in, they finished second place. They won Europa League. They won the Carabao Cup, so 2 trophies, and finished second place. You see steady progress. Then the following year, they get eliminated in Sevilla, and then the Premier League form starts falling up in the years ahead, and they just go from this to down, straight back down. And then they bring in Ole, who, is steadily improving this team, steadily. They're having a good run of form. They get past PSG in the Champions League with that miraculous comeback, and then it's penultimated to a 2nd place finish right under City. In fact, finishing ahead of their arch rivals Liverpool, who are heavily struggling that season. But they go up and they finish 2nd place, and then in that summer you sign Jadon Sancho, Varane, Ronaldo, and you're thinking, oh, there you go, that's the next step. But the following season, boom, he falls apart. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer gets sacked halfway through the season, not even halfway through. Ralf Rangnick came in, he can't do a job with them halfway through. They get eliminated at Atletico Madrid. They don't finish with Champions League football. And then the next year comes, Erik Ten Hag comes in, and it is steadily. Now you're seeing another rise back up with Erik Ten Hag. And then they end up finishing, I believe they finished third. They progressed really well throughout the season, play some good football at times. Guys that he brought in shows good signs, like Casemiro, who had a very solid year last year. He's able to bring in a lot of the guys that he wants, like Anthony and stuff, who show a little bit of promise. They have a great result against Barcelona, in the Europa League, and they're showing promise. They're finishing 3rd, and you're thinking, okay, now this season it's time to take the next level. You bring in guys like Mason Mount and Amrabat, and you replace De Gea with his name is loose in my head right now. Onana, yeah. They with Onana, and you're thinking, okay, now it's time to take the next level, and then you fall apart again. And that's kind of been the situation with Manchester United. Getting Ten taking next steps, steadily getting better, and then completely falling apart when it's time to take that next level into the climax. And that's been the story of Manchester United since Sir Alex Ferguson. So I don't know if bringing in a new manager is really going to solve that. I think it's more of a club problem. Now with Ten Hag, it's been his second season and we still don't know what style of play he wants to deploy here. I mean, certain days they play decent football. Most other days it's just the football is so hard to watch, so irritating, so just bad to watch, and you don't really see a style of play. So that's another big criticism you could have of Ten Hag. But overall, Manchester United, they need to figure out the issues regarding trying to transition this team into title contenders, into Champions League contenders. They're getting in a good level, and then they're falling apart, and it's happening year in and year out, and it's new problems every single time too. That's the frustrating thing. It's always new problems, and it's always a transition for Manchester United. There's never actually getting to the good part of a transition. There's never none of that. And for Manchester United, for their fans, I guess the main thing that they could be positive about is the new footballing operations coming in, new people running the footballing side of it, and maybe that can make the difference in Manchester United in their development post Sir Alex Ferguson. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we will discuss VAR potentially being scrapped in the Premier League.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody...
Before the break, we discussed, is Ten Hag doing enough to keep his job? I just wanted to remind you that, to ensure that your questions get read on the air, please use the tips and donations link at gsmcpodcast.net with your questions. Just put your questions at the top of the list so that I can see it. And it also really helps the show. So, the link is gsmcpodcast.net. I discussed Ten Hag and was he doing enough to keep his job? But I move on to discuss VAR. Okay. This is a very interesting topic, and a topic that we can go a little bit longer than 12 minutes on, I can assure, but I'll try to keep it as brief that I can. So, essentially, Wolverhampton Wanderers, they want VAR to be scrapped in the Premier League. They've came out with a statement, an interesting statement. Look, VAR has had its troubles. There's no getting away from that. VAR has had its troubles, especially this season. There's been a lot, even just going to today, there was the Anthony Gordon incident with Amrabat catching him on his heel. No penalty being given in the first half, not even a VAR check, which is kind of, in my opinion, kind of, when especially in the Premier League, when they go check VAR, it's essentially just to confirm the call. But let's go back to the basis of this conversation. Wolverhampton Wanderers have launched a motion to the Premier League board that they want to scrap VAR, and there's going to be a vote held next month regarding a meeting with all 20 clubs. For this to pass, it's not a majority. When you look at 20 clubs, 11 is majority. It's not majority in this case. They were going to need 13, so it's a little bit more than majority. They're going to need 13 other clubs at the meeting to pass this for it to happen. And if this were to be passed, it would see VAR, video assistant refereeing, to be completely removed from the Premier League right away. And that's it. In the statement that the Wolves posted, they said, "There is no blame to be placed. We are all just looking for the best possible outcome for football, and all stakeholders have been working hard to try and make the introduction of additional technology a success. However, after 5 seasons of VAR in the Premier League, it's time for a constructive and critical debate on its future. Our position is that the price we are paying for a small increase in accuracy is at odds with the spirit of our game, and as a result, we should remove it from the 2024-25 season onwards." Wolves, while they were making this complaint, they listed this proposition. They listed a numerous amount of complaints, including the impact on goal separations, the frustration inside the stadium due to lengthy VAR checks, hostile atmospheres with protests and booing of the Premier League anthem and chants against VAR, overreach of VAR's original purpose to correct clear and obvious mistakes, now over-analyzing subjective decisions, diminished accountability of on-field officials due to the VAR safety net, continuing error despite VAR with support unable to accept human error after multiple views and replay, disruption of the Premier League's fast pace with lengthy VAR checks and more at a time, causing matches to run excessively long, constant disclosure about VAR decisions, often overshadowing the match itself and tarnishing the reputation of the league, erosion of trust and reputation with VAR, fueling completely nonsensical allegations of corruption. To keep this in perspective, Wolves have been the worst affected team with VAR, with more additions going against them than any other club since it was introduced in 2019-20. They've had many calls against them, and they're not even close to the second worst team, which is Arsenal. Statistically, is not even close. They are clearly the worst affected team. Okay. VAR has had its issues. VAR, I love the statement when they say the difference in accuracy is not worth because that is providing, not worse than the issues that it's providing, it doesn't overcome it. I agree with that statement for the fact, I don't understand how you can have video official referees with the amount of cameras that we have, with the technology we have, how we see obvious penalties, obvious incidents, and no calls at all. For me, it's really a joke. And there's people that come out and say they need players in the VAR booth. I don't know if that's the case. I just think the people in the VAR booth are kind of incompetent, because we're looking at this. Normal fans who are watching the replays are able to understand that is a penalty. What are you doing? That is a penalty. Now, does it come down to the pressure? You're not in the stadium, so I don't know what really should affect you that much. But does it come down to pressure? Oh, I don't want to make this mistake that cost this team 3 points to this. Does it come down to pressure? Does it come down to this? But there are some obvious calls that VAR is flat out missing. And if that's the case, then why have it in the first place? Why, if you're still going to miss the calls, why have it? Flat out, why does it even exist if you're still going to miss the calls? VAR is something I don't think necessarily should be scrapped, because now you're looking at it from a perspective, referees are human, they make the mistake, it's over. Like, it's over for referee. They have no chance to, correct that. And I think there should be an added element there to protect the referees, because refereeing is a hard job. But there definitely has to be a major reconstruction of VAR, how it's implemented, how VAR officials are constructed. There has to be a huge reconstruction with the fundamentals of how VAR is used, especially in the Premier League. Number one, when it comes to, reviews happening on the field, I think referees should have more of an onus whenever it comes to being able to check their own mistake. What I mean by that, in the Premier League and even in the Champions League, whenever the play goes to VAR, if VAR tells the referee to go look at it itself, 99 out of 100 times, they're gonna change the call. For me, I think referees should be allowed to correct their own mistakes, not just with the most obvious of obvious ones. I think if VAR is doing so bad in general of decision making in the booth themselves, then they shouldn't really have the final say. In my opinion, I think VAR, the booth, whenever it comes to these second-hand decisions, they have the final say. Because anytime they tell the referee to go look, I just think they're trying to sell it to the fans in the stadium. Like, oh, the referee is having a double look. He agrees, he's trying to correct his own mistake. But I mean, whenever it's 99% of the time, I think there's a flaw in that. There's also a flaw in missing obvious penalties, obvious red cards, potential red cards. It's just constructively, they have to do a recycling of how VAR is implemented. There has to be a change in the education of VAR officials. They can't overanalyze every little detail whenever it comes to, just any situation. When it comes to a foul leading up to the goal, when it comes to a penalty, keep it simple with the penalties. If you deem there is contact, if you deem it's a handball, give it a penalty. Stop giving all these, and you do use the law of the game. The VAR tries to make things way more subjective than what it really is. Sometimes it's clear, oh, that's a penalty, it's a penalty. Don't overthink it. Don't say, he might have kicked out, or he's trying to sell for it. Don't try to look at it from a subjective point of view. Sometimes it's right to look at it. There's certain situations being subjective is correct, but sometimes just look at it from a purely, is it a penalty or not? Is it offsides or not? When it came to the Liverpool offsides against Tottenham, the Luis Diaz situation, how do you have that? How did that even happen with technology? I mean, there just needs to be a whole reconstruction of VAR. I don't think VAR should be scrapped, but there definitely should be a massive reconstruction of how VAR is implemented. Okay, we will take a short break here shortly. When I come back, we're going to talk about Chelsea. They defeated Brighton 2-1. And, we're going to discuss whether this is, whether Chelsea is slowly making their way back to, a top football club.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Okay. Before the break, I discussed the VAR situation potentially being scrapped in the Premier League, a vote coming up. But we got to discuss Chelsea Football Club defeating Brighton 2-1. Okay. Chelsea beat Brighton today away 2-1. They played pretty well in my opinion. 14 shots to 12, 6 shots on target to 2 for Brighton. They were outpossessed by Brighton and all that. But for me, it was a rather comfortable victory from on. It did get a little shaky on the end where Reece James had a kind of, a bad moment there. He's, really not been on the best of his former Chelsea career because of injuries and all that. Hasn't had a good, year and a half-ish or so. And yet, the red card was unfortunate. Which I believe takes him out for the rest of the season, because a red card gives you, it does take him out for the rest of the season because he's out for next game, and been a bad season for him just because of the injuries and all that. But due to that, this result, or due to that red card, it allowed Brighton to get a lot more pressure on us for the final minutes because of being down to 10 men, playing on the road against a Brighton team that can show they have quality despite their poor season. And that allowed them to put some pressure on Chelsea throughout the game. Throughout that final minutes. But Chelsea were able to hold on. They did end up conceding late, but they were able to hold on. I just want to say it was look. Saying is Chelsea building something special. I think that's might be going just a little bit too far, just because Chelsea have had some bad moments throughout the season. But this is a young team. But Chelsea have had some bad moments throughout the season. And you don't even have to go back far. You could go back to a little bit less than a month ago, the Arsenal thumping that we've suffered. But since then, we secured a point against Villa. We beat Tottenham, West Ham, Nottingham Forest, and Brighton. 4 games on the trot. It's been up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, and now it's a little bit of up. And, Chelsea is performing really well. We're moving up in the league. We are actually 6th place right now, and we have, we could very much finish, or I'm saying we, I shouldn't as a journalist, that's wrong, but Chelsea could very much finish 5th place, or being only 3 points behind Tottenham with the last game remaining. Look, Chelsea are going to have to beat Bournemouth, and Tottenham is going to have to lose to Sheffield United. Is that going to happen? No, it's not going to happen. Let's be honest. Sheffield, they're out of it. They're not gonna beat Tottenham. Chelsea will probably take care of business against Bournemouth. But Sheffield beating Tottenham is not going to happen. So Chelsea, in my opinion, they're going to be locked in that 6th place position. As long as they only need a point to secure that, with Newcastle and Man United 3 points behind them, 1 point in that final game gives them enough to finish 6th place, which is, a good position for them, especially with the circumstances throughout the season, the struggle of this young and improving team. I think 6th place finish is a solid finish for them. And even if they don't reach 5th place, they still have a high probability of reaching the Europa League, as long as United don't beat City in the FA Cup final. I personally don't see that happening. So if City are able to take care of United in the FA Cup final, which is highly probable, Chelsea will get into Europa League, which I think is a very important qualification, and is something that cannot be overlooked, because whether or not we'll be able to reach top 4 next season, that will be a challenge. There are a lot of good teams left. Newcastle will come back. Aston Villa, they're not going to drop down. There's Arsenal, there's City. Liverpool, they're in a transition, but they still have quality guys coming in, and maybe the new coach can keep this team up afloat. There's always that extra surprise team. Getting top 4 next year is going to be difficult, even though I think Chelsea, realistically, they should expect to reach top 4. Has to be the minimum requirement for next season. But the Europa League qualification gives you a extra opportunity to reach the Champions League in the following season. It's like another opportunity to finish top 4 or 5, depending on the situation next year, with the extra 5th place spot going to the Champions League. I think reaching the Europa League is huge qualification for Chelsea. You get a little bit more improved revenue. It's not like Champions League money, but Europe is important for the amount of money we spend. We need to compete in some sort of European football. These young players that we have, they have to experience continental football, going and playing midweek games in other countries in Europe. These young guys, they need to get used to that, because this is a Chelsea team that want to build into a contender for the Premier League, a contender for the Champions League. So getting into Europe is very important for Chelsea Football Club, and I believe they will be able to reach the Europa League, because I think they'll do enough to, keep Newcastle United behind them, and I don't think Man United will be able to beat City in the Cup final. Now, is Chelsea building something special? Under Pochettino is a good manager. Pochettino has done very well with the likes of Southampton and Tottenham, building what he's done. And I always said, look, Pochettino, he could come in and he can build, reboot this Chelsea team back to playing very, very good football, getting it to top 4, and, back to not being bottom feeders like we were last season. I think Pochettino is the right man in that aspect to integrate the players, to develop these players, to, get these players playing wonderful football. You already see throughout this year, there is a style of play that we are trying to, play with game in, game out. You see a heavy dose of getting numbers forward, a good counter press system, relying heavily on energy. You see a system that Pochettino is trying to play, which is very, very important whenever you see a system. Now, whether or not we have the players, or in our case, the experience to really win with with the way we're playing, no, not yet, not in the level that Chelsea aspired to. But there are positive signs in this Chelsea team. This is a Chelsea team, I tell you. I say this again because it's mind-boggling to me. There's 38 Premier League goals in Premier League games in a season. Chelsea last season, in a campaign that they finished 12th, scored a whopping 38 goals all season. 38 goals. 1 goal a game. 1 goal a game, and they conceded 47. This season, goal scoring tally-wise has been marvelous when you compared to last season. 75 goals in this season. 75 goals while we're 37 games in. That is almost double what we scored last season, and it's on the verge of being doubled if we can get at least 1 goal tomorrow on Sunday when Chelsea take on the Bournemouth. If they're able to get 1 goal, that doubles the tally that they got last season, and they have a chance to add on even more to that. So goal scoring wise, we've been very, Chelsea has been very, I keep saying we, Chelsea has, I know sport fans understand, I keep saying we, it's just by nature. But Chelsea have goal scoring wise, they have improved, and Nicholas Jackson has missed so many opportunities. We haven't had that clinical number 9. So if Chelsea are able to bring that in, I think it just adds even more goals. But the problem is defensively, Chelsea are leaking a lot of goals, really in the bottom half of the league when it comes to the goals that they're leaking. Defensively, it's been kind of shaky. Here guys, here and there, here guys, lack of concentration, lack of focus in bad areas of the pitch, individual just bad defending in certain moments, and that's something that has to be addressed, which it will. And I think a lot of it just comes down to continuity, guys playing more together, maybe bringing in some guy with more experience, especially with Thiago Silva coming out, leaving, going back to Brazil. I think Chelsea are building something very good. I think whenever you invest in a squad like the way that they did, there's bound to be some sort of talent. And the main thing is whenever you're able to get a guy like Cole Palmer in, with the amount of money that they spend, he is a game changer for them. He is a future talisman for Chelsea, if not right now. That was really the biggest thing to recycle this Chelsea team quickly. Bringing in the like of Cole Palmer, it's a guy like, it's kind of equivalent to like Liverpool bringing in Suarez. Whenever it was a Liverpool team really, really struggling, they bring in a guy like Suarez and it completely changes everything. I think Cole Palmer, not to that extent, but has that kind of, is having that kind of, impact at Chelsea. And now they just need to get that clinical number 9. They need to bring in a little bit more experience. Some of these guys that have really been struggling because of, struggling to a new team, maybe a new league, new team as in Caicedo, new league as in Enzo. These guys who has been playing injured all season, these guys really need to step up and show how, that they're worth the amount of money that they've been spent upon them. And these raw players can develop, because Modric, look, you see the memes, and Modric, he has his bad moments, but when it comes to quality and talent, he is very, very raw, and you cannot teach his physical attributes, his pace, his touch, his control. He's a very, very raw player that they just need to figure it out at the end of goals, guys, whenever attacking wise. Madueke, similar in that position, nowhere near as raw as Modric, but does have some potential. You get a guy like Ian Maatsen potentially coming back, who's been brilliant at Borussia Dortmund, been the starting left back for a team that reached the Champions League final. This Chelsea team, they are building something special. But, now they need to find some sort of consistency, and top 4 has to be the objective for next season. It has to be the objective for next season. If not top 4, they have to win the Europa League. We're going to take a short break here, but when we come back, we're going to discuss some of the biggest storylines at this summer's Copa America.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Before the break, we discussed Chelsea and what they're building at the football club. But now we have to discuss the Copa America coming up. It is an exciting tournament when you look at So many storylines entering it. Argentina, the defending World Cup champions, the last hurrah for Di Maria. Messi hasn't came out and said this is his last tournament, but there is a good likely Lionel Scaloni, this is potentially his last tournament with Argentina. You saw the comments he made earlier regarding, being like wanting to move on, not being able to give everything, and, really talking about his future. And there's just a lot of storyline. Brazil, they want to, they want to start off this new cycle as they build this World Cup after a horrible start to World Cup qualifying. There's many stories going all around. Marcelo Bielsa in Uruguay. There's a lot. But, look, we are an American network, so I think the biggest of all storylines is this U.S. men's national team. This U.S. men's national team that is one of the most talented national team they've ever had. When you look at the likes playing all across the week in Europe, Timothy Weah, Christian Pulisic, Yunus Musa, Giovanni Reina, Weston McKennie, Joe Scally, should I keep going? There's so many players playing at the top levels of top flight football in Europe, and they're all they're a talented group of individuals. My main concern about them has to be their manager. I don't think this manager Greg Berhalter is a manager that makes his team better than the sum of their parts. I think a brilliant manager makes their teams better than the sum of their parts. So I think the U.S. men's national team are kind of in the same position as a England national team with Gareth Southgate, a manager that's not to the caliber of the players that they have. That's what I really think in both situations. I think the U.S. soccer team is a very talented group. Now look, if you want to look at it objectively, when you compare their talent to other teams, they are the 4th, maybe 5th place team in this summer's Copa America. Just because, look, Argentina, Brazil, Uruguay, those are just teams that are just, they're just better than the U.S. But then you look at the likes of, a Colombia who are on a good form, who have some quality players, an Ecuador that also played very, very well in the World Cup, despite the fact that they couldn't get it out of the group stage. They played a very, very good World Cup, especially the first 2 games. When you look at that, there's, this is a Copa America. That will be a difficult task for the U.S. men's national team if they want to make some sort of run. They're paired in a group with Uruguay, Bolivia, Panama. That's a group that they should easily get out of. But the main kicker of that is, the group D, the group right ahead of the U.S., Uruguay, Panama, Bolivia group is Brazil, Colombia, Paraguay, Costa Rica, which we will assume is Brazil and Colombia that finish first or second. So whether or not U.S. wins the group or not, they are going to be tasked with a difficult game going up against either Brazil or Colombia, just based on the sheer talent that they have. But the U.S. does have the support of a home nation at this. They are the host of this Copa America. Now, if I think they go up against a big team like a Brazil, a Colombia, Mexico, and Argentina, I think they're more than capable of getting outnumbered. And in fact, I will predict the stadiums will not be in their favor. But you're still playing it on a home soil. It is grounds that you're comfortable with. So, and this is the last major tournament for the U.S. men's national team to really prepare for the World Cup. So, huge tournament for them, huge tournament for Berhalter. Wow, I went a lot talking about the U.S. I don't have that much time left on this segment. 12, 24, 36, 48. Yeah, I only got 4 minutes left. But there's still other storylines here. The Mexico national team, they're going to kind of go young in this Copa America. They've really struggled in the last few years. One of the worst Mexico teams I've ever seen in my lifetime, talent-wise. And they were getting rid of these old guys that really failed this Mexico national teams in many Nations League and multiple World Cups now. So they want to go with a very, very young group. This is going to be a hungry group, an energetic group, and a group coming in with no sort of expectations. At least it's kind of, let's just see with them. I think that kind of makes them deadly in this Copa America, honestly, going with this young team that they're going with. And the team, they want to bring in guys that they believe are going to help them within the next couple of years, and they don't deem guys like Memo Ochoa and Raul Jimenez and Hector Lozano, they want to, kind of throw them out, which I do not blame. which I do not blame because they keep doing the same thing over and over again, and it's leading to constant failures. 3 times Nations League lost. A Gold Cup, a horrible Gold Cup where they lost to the USC team. Last Gold Cup, scraping by and winning it despite, the US not sending their best teams and all that. And then World Cup qualifiers really struggling against Mexico and Canada. I think this is a very good opportunity for them. I think this is also a good opportunity for an Argentina to continue to enhance Messi's legacy, for them to continue the good form that they've been on for the last 3-4 years. They are the favorites in this tournament just because of their relative success in the past, in the last couple of years. Messi potentially his swan song, Di Maria definitely his swan song. Argentina, it's obvious why they're a big headline. Uruguay, they're a team that are trying to create something new with Marcelo Bielsa, who plays beautiful attacking football, roulette football, dangerous football for both sides of it. They will concede a lot of goals, Uruguay, but they will score a lot of goals as well. That's just how the Marcelo Bielsa way is. They're gonna press high. They're gonna create many opportunities. They're gonna put pressure on the other team. They're not gonna be afraid to, press in high up in crazy areas. They're not gonna be afraid to put numbers forward. That's just the Marcelo Bielsa way. They play roulette football. No. And then they have talented players. They have Federico Valverde. They have Ugarte. They have Nunez. They got Fernando Palestri. They got Araujo. They have good players. Because, that's just what it is. In Uruguay, the amount of, talented players that they're able to develop with, in my opinion, not in my opinion, but with a miniature amount of population is something, in my opinion, that should be studied. And then you have the Brazil national team. They had a horrible start to the World Cup qualifiers. Now they've brought in Junior Dorvial, and they had a very good window while beating England and drawing against Spain in Europe. They got guys like Endrick that scored multiple goals, and they had a 17-year-old. They have Vinicius and Rodrigo that's had brilliant Champions League campaigns that showed their ability to be great on the counter and clinical. They have a Gabriel Magalhaes who's playing some of his best football in his career, playing very good defensively for Arsenal. They got a Premier League array of midfielders that have all been on very, very good form. When you look at Douglas Luiz, Andres Pereira, Bruno Guimaraes, Lucas Paquetá. So they have quality, but Brazil is always going to have quality. They just really need to take that, they really need to start building for this World Cup cycle and, take back the Copa America, which was taken from them in the final last year by Argentina at home. I don't think Brazil fans want to look at a second Copa America title going against Argentina going to Argentina when you look at the fierce rivalry between the two. We're gonna take a short break, but when we come back, I'm gonna discuss some of the top rumors going on in world football. Before the break, we discussed some of the biggest storylines going on at this summer's Copa America. Now we have to discuss some of the top transfer rumors going around in the football world. There has been, some rumors regarding some key players. Some clubs like Chelsea are rumored to some strikers coming in. Liverpool, their situation, Jurgen Klopp leaving, opens the door for other guys potentially to leave and all that. So we'll just discuss some of those rumors going around. But I think we have to start off with some of the Saudi clubs eyeing Liverpool's players such as Mohamed Salah and Alisson. Now, interest in Mohamed Salah has not been something that just started recently. There was a $150 million offer from Al Ittihad last summer for the 31-year-old when the transfer market opened. But, that didn't happen. And now Salah is set to enter his final year of contract at Anfield. And, it really comes down to whether or not Salah kind of wants to end, his European career. But also, is Liverpool, does Liverpool look at it with 1 year left of Salah's deal? Is it time for us to cash in on him if that sort of offer comes in again? Now, I still think Salah has had a really, really good season. I don't think he's on the decline. I think even if he doesn't want to stay at Liverpool, he has an opportunity to go in another elite club in Europe to really continue his legacy that he's built. I mean, he's a brilliant player. He's the best right back in the world, and he's still the best right back in the world, in my opinion, and right winger in the world. So why would he go to Saudi? But, the money talks, and the money talks. But I don't like him going to Saudi just because he is 31 and he still has a lot to offer, in my opinion. I think seeing him maybe at a club like a Barcelona, maybe going back to Europe, going back to Italy, I just think there's a lot of opportunities out there for him to continue to be a star. And, he wants to continue to push this for the Egyptian national team, take them potentially to World Cup 2026 in the US. He will be 33, 34 at that point. And, why not play an elite level that gives you, that opportunity to, still be at a high level by the time that tournament comes around. Alisson, he's also reported to be on, some lists for a lot of clubs in Saudi. They're trying to make a lot of signings and help, raise the league. That's another one where I say he still has a lot more to give to Europe. He is 31 as well, but he still has 3 more years remaining on his deal. And, I think goalkeepers tend to age a lot, better than other players. So I really think 31 is not old at all. And for me, I don't see why Alisson would want to do it. And I believe the Salah one, just because of the previous speculation, has a lot more of an opportunity to happen. Reports saying United are interested in Aston Villa striker Ollie Watkins. Look, he's 28. He's a brilliant footballer, and he's had a very, very good season. And he could come in and make an immediate impact at Old Trafford. He is sort of a similar profile to Rasmus Højlund sort of way, but he's a lot more experienced when it comes to the Premier League, and he's had a good season at Villa. Why he doesn't want to leave Villa to go play Manchester United, no Europe football, I don't understand that. I don't think he wants to make that sort of downgrade at this point in time. But it's out there, and I think that would be a good move for United. Soloros. Okay. Not Soloros. Sesko. So Chelsea and Arsenal, they're this is also, by the way, everything here is, transfer rumors by certified sources, but it's still rumors. They want to eye a deal potentially for Benjamin Sesko, the 20-year-old talented striker for Leipzig. I really like him. I really like his profile. He's a brilliant player. He's more of a slimmer center forward, but he has quality. He's a Slovenian. He's going to be at, on showcase at the summer, at the Euros for Slovenia, which, you see these international tournaments, they always give an opportunity for players to really, get on the top European radars. And I can see that sort of tournament coming for Benjamin Sesko. If he can have a good Euros, if he can score some goals, kind of like the way Gakpo did at the World Cup for Netherlands, I think that gives that can increase his transfer value. So I think if Arsenal or Chelsea want to make this sort of move for Benjamin Sesko, they should try to do it before the Euros and get it done. So the $65 million value, you could look at it now and say that $65 million value might look a lot better than what it could potentially after the Euros. If you remember, Cody Gakpo's value after the World Cup doubled essentially. So, and Manchester United could have had him for very cheap in the summer. They couldn't get it done, and Liverpool got it done in January for a lot of value. Now, if it is Chelsea and Arsenal, coming down trying to get a player, we always know how that ends up. Mikhailo Mudryk. So, but I think Chelsea, I think he'll be a good signing for both clubs. But I think Chelsea, this will work. This will be a good signing for Chelsea, getting a number 9. And they're also linked with Osimhen. Now, Osimhen is a much heftier, proposition. But to keep in mind, this is a Benjamin Sesko that scored 13 goals and 2 assists in 30 matches. So the production is not really there to that level. It's a guy that kind of has to, progress, kind of develop. So I think that fits him better in Arsenal with a guy like Mikel Arteta, who was willing to develop him. Now, Chelsea also have a lot of young teams that, he can also fit in Chelsea because they have a lot of young players that also need to develop. But Chelsea right now are in a position, they still need to bring in some guys in that can help them right away. They have a lot of guys that need to develop. Arsenal, they have a lot of the experienced guys. They have the players that are playing brilliant right now. So they could take a chance on someone. It's an expensive chance, but they can take a chance on someone. So I think he will be a good fit for both teams. And then there's the Bruno Fernandes. Now, Bruno Fernandes, he had a brilliant game today against Newcastle. He's a quality player. Now, there's a lot of things that rub people the wrong way when it comes to his behavior. Not saying he has behavior issues, just regarding the complaining, the whining, the uncaptainish behavior by the captain. But Bruno Fernandes, he's a quality player. He has talent. I think it's, Manchester United, they want to keep him, but I don't think it's in his best interest. Yeah, maybe he does have, passion for the club, but it's unbelievable. He's 29 years old and he hasn't really reached the levels like that, when it comes to competition, when it comes to trophies. He hasn't really won anything that his caliber of talent has really reached. So I think that should have reached. So I think it's kind of in his best interest. Now, United, they want Bruno Fernandes to stay, which I understand. I still think from a United perspective, he is 29 years old, and, do you really believe that you can get this team into a title, contending team by the time he's, still in his prime? Can they do that? I don't think that they're capable of, but, they have bring in the new football guys, so maybe they believe we can, surround Bruno and do it quickly. But for Bruno, who's, essentially wasted a lot of his career being at United, I think it's time for him to look at another team that he can start playing in the biggest of competitions, game in, game out, and play the high level of football, which I think his talent shows he's capable of. Whether or not he's captain material with his complaining, with his whining, with his behavior, that's a whole different question. And I've been very, very critical on him. But, his talent cannot be denied. He's a brilliant footballer, just in general. He's a maestro of a midfielder. So I think it is in his best interest to really take, move on to a better opportunity for him. Well, this, guys, it's been a very good show. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast presented by the GSMC Sport Network. Your support means a lot to us. So please remember to subscribe to the show and leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. So thank you guys once again, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.